Hi everyone, this is a tutorial video on question 3.2.2, which is the Davis and Davis factory question. Right, so in this question, we were required to calculate the labor recovery rate for Bridget Kumalo. So let's start with the question. It says Bridget Kumalo works for Davis and Davis factory as a machinist. Her wage is calculated at 160 per hour. She worked 56 hours in the week ending 15 March 2019, which included 4 hours that were worked on Sunday. Employees at Davis and Davis factory work a normal 45-hour week over 5 days. Normal overtime is paid at 150% of normal pay, and overtime on Sundays and public holidays are paid at 200%. Bridget receives a clothing allowance of 400 Rand per month, and then we were given the normal deductions. We were given the employer contribution and the employee contribution. These contributions consist of the pension fund, medical aid, union fees, unemployment insurance fund, and pay as you earn. Right. The additional information is that each employee receives a bonus that is equal to 1 month's salary in the month of their birthday, and that the company closes for 2 weeks in December as well as 1 week in July. There are 6 public holidays, which are during the week in the year, and it is company policy to remunerate employees for these days. Idle time is at 9%. So, when calculating the labor recovery rate, you need to calculate what the cost to company is and what the productive hours in a year are. So, to do this, you'll have your normal pay, which we then calculated as follows. It was the 45 hours that they work in a week multiplied with 52 weeks in a year multiplied with 160 Rand, which is the rate that they are paid per hour. That'll give you a total of 374,400. Right. And then they said that they receive a bonus that is equal to 1 month's salary. So to calculate this, you'll take your normal pay divided by 12 months. That will give you a bonus of 31,200. Right, we're also told that Bridget receives a clothing allowance of 400 Rand per month. Remember, when you're doing cost to company, you're calculating what the cost is to the company for the year. Therefore, you'll take your 400 clothing allowance, multiply that with 12 months, and then you get that for the 12 months, Bridget receives a clothing allowance of 4,800. Then we move on to the employer contributions. Right. So we have 3 employer contributions. We have the pension fund, the medical aid, and we have the unemployment insurance fund. And we were told that the employer contributes 8% to the pension fund. Therefore, it is 8% of the normal pay. Then that will give you 29,952 employer contribution to the pension fund. We also had medical aid. Medical aid was at 9% of the normal pay. Therefore, that will give you a total of 33,696 employer contribution to the medical aid. Another deduction that we had was the unemployment insurance fund, and the employer contributes 1% to the fund, which will then give you 3,744 Rand. Therefore, we need to add up all these employer contributions. So you'll need to add up your pension fund, medical aid, and UIF, and that will give you a total of 67,392 of employer contributions. Remember, we are required to calculate cost to company. Therefore, you need to add all these amounts. So you'll need to add your normal pay, your bonus, your clothing allowance, and the total of your employer contributions, which will give you a total of 477,792. Right, now we have done our cost to company. So now we move on to our productive hours, right? So we have normal weeks, the number of normal weeks, which is 52 weeks. And then we have our leave in weeks. Remember, they told us that the company closes for 2 weeks in December and as well as 1 week in July. That gives us a total of 3 weeks in leave. Therefore, 52 minus the 3 weeks will give you a total of available weeks of 49 weeks. Therefore, we need to multiply with the weekly working hours, and they told us that the employees work a normal 45-hour week over 5 days. Therefore, we need to multiply with 45, and then we'll get our hours in a year to be 2,205. Right. Now we need to minus the public holidays. They told us that there are 6 public holidays during the week. Therefore, we need to calculate how many hours do they work per day. So to get this, you take the 45 hours per week divided by 5 days, and you will get that they work 9 hours per day. Now, they told us that the public holidays fall during the week. Therefore, you need to take the 6 days multiplied with the 9 hours that they would have worked in a day, and that will give you a total of 54 hours. And therefore, we need to calculate what our working hours in a year is. So you'll take your hours in a year less your public holiday hours, and that will give you 2,151 working hours in a year. And then we were told that idle time is 9%. Therefore, it is 9% of the working hours in a year. And you'll get that our idle time is 193.59 hours. And to finally get our productive hours in a year, you will take your working hours in a year and you will minus the idle time hours, which will give you a total of 1,957.41 hours, productive hours in a year. We still haven't finished. We need to answer the question, which was to calculate the labor recovery rate for Bridget Khumalo. Therefore, to get your labor recovery rate, you need to take your cost to company divided by the productive hours. So as we calculated, our cost to company is 477,792 divided by the productive hours that we calculated of 1,957.41. That will give you 244 Rand 9 cents per labor hour. Right. And then the second part of our questions was that we had to explain the following terminology. So we have cost to company. Cost to company is the total amount that the employee will cost the company. And then we had employee contribution. Employee contribution is monetary contributions that employees make to their own benefit programs. An example of this would be medical aid. And then we had payee or pay as you earn. That is a statutory tax deduction from an employee's remuneration that is paid over to SARS. And then the last one was overtime. Overtime is the time that is worked in addition to one's normal working hours. An example of this would be working on public holidays.